Hey there, guys. Sean Michael here from OnMSFT, and we are here to talk Microsoft, the official podcast of that very website. Now, remember, that's on MSFT if you're typing it.com,
Mm-hmm.
on Microsoft, no, on Microsoft, but it's on MSFT.com. And with me, as always, is co-host Sean Ong. How you doing this week, Sean?
Doing fantastic. Thank you, Sean.
We got interesting topics this week. I wouldn't say that there's a huge amount of breaking news or anything like that, but there's enough to let us dive deep into some of this Microsoft discussion. We have things ranging from HoloLens news, specifically relating to the second or third gen
Yeah.
of HoloLens, as well as Windows 10 builds, different updates, and the return of the long lost segment App Gap Recap.
Aha.
App Gap
Yes.
Recap. Pow! Somebody make a sound effect. App Gap Recap.
We'll do
So we
our own
got all
sound
sorts of
effects.
things to talk about. How was your week, Sean?
Not too bad. Just kind of, just released one app, which we may or may not talk about during this segment. And yeah, just been kind of working on some HoloLens stuff, doing some book writing stuff, and yeah, just working on a bunch of projects here and there.
I have to say, a lot of people out there covering Microsoft, covering all sorts of tech, and that's great. And a lot of people do a really good job. I have to say, I don't know a lot of people that have and regularly develop on a HoloLens.
That's true,
And
yeah.
so we're certainly lucky to have you on the channel because you not only get demos, but you get someone who really can talk about, UWP on a very new platform, and you have an app, and we'll talk about it pretty close to the end of the show today. And it's exciting stuff. Before we get into HoloLens news, let's get into a bit of a tradition here. If you're hearkening back to our roots here, build news. Always got the build news, right?
Yes.
This week, actually, it was today. It was about an hour ago. No, 3 hours ago, I guess. Did I put the wrong link in there? In any event, no, yeah. So there are some new features that have come, not a ton, because Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile both have new builds. They are somewhat interestingly enough, slightly different build numbers. One is 15042 and one's 15043, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, let me talk about some of this for PCs. Let's talk about some of the new uh, builds here. In 15042, you got three newish features. New Cortana animation. It actually looks pretty nice if you want to go check that out. They have a prompt to enable Flash in Microsoft Edge. There you go. And then you have improved reading experience as well related to e-publishing. So I wouldn't, at this point, because we already knew we were feature locked. We already knew that they had pretty much finished, I want to say finished developing. In terms of new features, they had reached a point where it's new.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not going to give you a ton of breaking stuff, but I've recently updated my phone to what was the most recent build, and now it's coming here, and they're really stabilizing out there. So I'm excited to see the creators update here. Do you have? I know you have a few PCs, Sean. Do you have any devices running on Insider stuff right now?
So I did have one, my old Surface, and I sold that. And I haven't gotten around to enabling the Insider preview on my new Surface yet. I do enjoy it being a little bit more stable, but I miss all the new features, so I'll have to do that sooner than later.
I think one of the things that you get with an operating system that gets updated like a service is this polish, and it's a little thing. This, if you look the Cortana animation, it's just very fluid. It's hard to describe in
Mm-hmm.
animation, but it shows up, kind of wraps around. It just looks nice, and those are the types of things. It's updated icons. It's better animation. It's little things that might perturb you a bit that they don't get updated, but over time they do, and then they add nice little features as well. We'll get into Redstone 3 a little bit later because we're running out of new things to talk about in the creators update. But new builds today, if you're on the latest Insider ones, you talk about them here. If they're stable for you, if they're not, that type of thing. How upset are you about things being delayed? Because there are some features that won't come until later. But yeah, so there's that with the Insider build. Not a ton new this week though in terms of that. Much more news in your front, the holographic front.
Yes. All right. So are we gonna jump into holographic news now?
Yeah, sure. I think honestly, there just isn't a lot of building. It's just there. It happened a few hours before the show, but I think the biggest news of this week might be your HoloLens stuff.
Yeah.
Multiple generations of HoloLens kind of skipping around.
Yep, that's right. So, big news that kind of caught everyone off guard, myself included, was this report that Microsoft decided they developed version 2, but they decided not to actually release version 2 and wait instead for version 3. And according to some, insider, conversations and things like that, the reason was that Microsoft felt they had some breathing room. So they were so far ahead with the HoloLens that, version 2 would have been an incremental upgrade. And, they felt, okay, since they're not, there's no real pressure on the market right now, let's just wait for version 3 and put out something way better. So it's interesting news. I don't really, I've talked to a few people, and I would describe it, for me as a HoloLens developer, as bittersweet. I think the bitter part is that, well, it means 2019. So they said version 3 will be released in 2019. That's still a far ways off, So it kind of makes you wonder, well, how fast is this technology going to grow? Are we moving quickly? Are we moving slowly? The sweet news is that I spent a lot of money on the HoloLens, so it's not immediately made obsolete.
It's not outdated yet.
So,
what in a HoloLens? What would you want to see in a V? I guess it'll be V3. It's a bit odd that I guess they'll really is V2.
Yeah.
But it's V3 internally, V2 externally. I don't
Yeah.
know what they'll call it.
Yeah.
But in any event, what do you want to see improve in a HoloLens? Because it's going to be a few years, so that tells me if they're doing this, as Boltman says in our comments here, he says the layoff to V3 is a good thing, bigger leap. Well, if it's going to be a bigger leap, what do you want to see? What do you want Microsoft to leap into?
So I think the biggest, I would say what everyone agrees upon right now, the biggest thing if we could ask for and have our wish would be field of view. Having the holograms kind of fill up as much of your peripheral vision as possible. I think that, as far as how smooth it is, it's okay. Like, performance could always increase on any machine, but it works pretty darn well on just about everything. I think the one thing I'd like to see is field of view. Second in line would be, for me, a smaller size. So making it, kind of making that progress towards it being a pair of glasses or something, maybe not quite as small as Google Glass. I mean, that was pretty sleek, but something that, you're not going to feel super awkward wearing it out in public, which right now it is. If I were to put on my HoloLens and go walk around the mall.
Maybe as part of like a cosplay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
if you were like at a Star Trek convention, maybe you'd fit in.
I would feel very, aware of what people looking at me. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
but I would say more importantly than the awkward factor is increasing the field of view, because that'll actually make it useful. That'll make it more immersive, and then from there they can make the size smaller. So for me, it's just really those two things. Go ahead.
Well, isn't HoloLens? I can't even buy one right now unless I'm a developer.
Yeah, there's only
Right?
a developer kit out there right now.
So I mean, it's not exactly like they're, it's not like Apple decided to skip an iPhone.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of it's almost a front-facing developer project to build up Windows holographic.
Yep, it is.
And then other OEMs are doing things with Windows holographic as well. So, someone might nervously say, "Ooh, well, is Microsoft going to miss the boat again?" The Windows, they were the first to a tablet, then lost the tablets. They were, they had Windows Phone, then lost a phone. I don't think that's going to be the case here because you have other OEMs making Windows holographic devices, and you have developers making it there. And if they're trying to make the model much more like how PCs are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's going to hurt them as much to delay it to a V3 because I still think developers are going to want to make Windows holographic devices. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So this poll was actually done on Microsoft. I'll put it up here on the live stream, and they asked, on Microsoft asked everyone, what would what do you think? You vote on if you're happy about it, sad about it, and surprisingly, a lot of people. Majority, 40% of voters said HoloLens V3 will be worth the wait. Close second was yes, this is a good thing that it's delayed because third-party Windows holographic devices will fill the gap. And that's what I'm really excited about, kind of going back
Yeah.
to what you were saying, is this year, so there are tons and tons of reports, companies like Lenovo, HP, Acer, they're all saying that this year is when they'll release their Windows holographic devices. Everything that we HoloLens developers have been making will be able to run on the holographic devices. Just this month, at the Windows Developer Conference, Developer Day, they showed off, how we can convert our apps to make them optimized to run on these new devices. So yeah, the platform's already out on the HoloLens. Low prices are going to be on these third-party devices. Starting at I think $300. So I'm really excited to see kind of the ecosystem grow, and then Microsoft does. Let's admit it, they do have some breathing room unless there's a huge surprise this year. They first showed the HoloLens in 2015, January of 2015, I think it was. So that's a long time ago. And
As you can tell, because the image you showed earlier had Internet Explorer on it.
yeah. So yeah, so they were way ahead back then. They're still way ahead now. But technology is interesting because people move very, very quickly. So that's the only thing I'm a little nervous about is, hopefully they'll be able to kind of keep the lead that they have, which I don't think it'll be a problem. But yeah,
No,
technology
I don't
moves
either.
fast.
I don't think this is going to be like phones. I understand if someone's a little concerned, but I just don't. I just don't think it's going to be like that because you have big name developers making these devices. This isn't like one brand in China
Yeah.
maybe making a budget one like you see with like Nuance Neo, which I guess now isn't even going to make Windows 10 mobile. But no, I mean Lenovo's a big company.
Yep.
These are big
Yeah.
companies, and so if
HP,
they're willing,
Acer, Asus. Yeah.
yeah, these are some of the biggest companies that, in terms of PC making. They're going to be some of the biggest names in the VR space. I know it's not Oculus, but I mean, some of these aren't there. Some of the can Oculus work with Windows 10?
Yeah, so that's a question. There's some, like, if you read some posts online, it seems to suggest that HTC Vive and Oculus might be compatible with the new Windows
Yeah,
mixed reality system that's coming out. But I don't think so. But yeah, it's something that's a possibility.
that would be probably the biggest get because I would say if you said to someone name a VR headset, they'd probably say either Oculus Rift or HTC Vive.
Yeah.
And so if they could get those working as an option, even if it was, I don't know, I mean, these are computing devices at the end of the day. So even if it was something like you could boot it to run Windows 10 the same way you could make a Mac run Windows 10,
So
maybe even
yeah, so
something
the
like
way
that.
it works, so with these third-party devices, it's actually your PC that's running everything. So you have something called Windows Mixed Reality on your PC. So if you have an insider build, you already see it on there. And what it is, it's just streaming the view to your device. You're not actually running the operating system on your device. You're running it on your
Yeah.
PC. Your device is just sending back the signals to let the PC know where you are in space and detecting your hand gestures and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so technically, I guess the main challenge with the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive is that they don't have the inside-out sensors that these holographic devices have. So it's not
Mm.
really a world scale. If you walked outside of the sensors, it wouldn't know where you are anymore. So I'd say that's probably
Yeah.
the biggest issue which is why I don't think it'll work. But yeah, I could be surprised.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. And like I said, these are the big names there. So yeah, it's I don't think it's like that terrible a news. I would have in an ideal world, I would like to see that development because then it would show us where they're trending. If there was a big jump between the Surface 2 or Surface Pro 2 and the Surface Pro 3.
Yep. Yep.
And if this has a similar jump, then I would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see there.
Yeah. Yeah, the Surface Pro 2 was bulky, just like the Surface Pro 1. But then that big, slim form factor to the 3, and that's when people got really excited. The 1 and the 2, the Pro 1 and the Pro 2 didn't really sell that well, but the Pro 3, Microsoft really hit it on the nail, and So yeah, hopefully we'll see something similar this time around too.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, well, a much more boring news front, but still probably worth talking. There's some OneDrive updates, Sean. What do you think of those? Or
Yeah.
OneDrive
So,
soon to have. It's not even here yet. Soon to be updated.
so differential sync. So I actually had to read up on this because I didn't even know what that term meant. It's basically, the ability to not sync your whole file, but only the one tiny little part of the file that changed, right? So if you're writing a massive document and you just changed, the letter A to a letter E, instead of syncing the whole document, you're just changing that one little letter, right? So it massively reduces bandwidth. And I guess OneDrive, I was reading, has already been doing this for Office files. It's just that now they're going to be doing it for all files, as far as I
It
can
could
tell.
be. It's a part of a roadmap, so I guess it's not officially seen yet, but it's on their roadmap here, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I was looking at the feedbacks. I'll put this up on the live stream here. So somebody asked for this back in August of 2014, and it got a ton of it got a ton of votes. And then Microsoft replied and said, "Good suggestion. Thinking about it." And that was in September of 2014. And then they went radio silence until now.
It makes you wonder. Are we going to someone's going to have some feedback from like, oh, I don't know about Clippy. It's I don't like his eyes, and they'll be like, oh, maybe we'll change him.
So now people are coming back. So so this post from 2014. Now in the last few days, everyone's coming back on this thread and starting to comment, and about what's going on here.
That's so funny because that must, to me, that indicates that it probably took a while to program,
Maybe.
or that it wasn't very high on their list, and they're just kind of saying, "Oh, we can squeeze this in this year, I guess." So this could be beneficial for. To be honest, OneDrive does not have very impressive upload times.
Mm-mm.
Have you ever tried to upload a file that was relatively large to OneDrive?
Oh yeah, it's much slower.
It's not fast, and so and that's somewhat understandable, I suppose. I haven't compared. I should probably do that at some point. I should go on like Dropbox and OneDrive and just upload the same file and see what the speed difference is. But I just, anything that makes it faster is great for me.
Yeah.
I wonder how intricate this is going to be. What if you upload a music file? Those can be pretty complicated.
Yeah,
So
so-
I could, with Office document, I could understand
Yeah.
making it be very complicated for something more,
so I was
more
reading
sophisticated.
about this feature. Apparently, Dropbox has actually already had this for a few years, the full
Oh, there you
differential
go.
sync. So that's probably why Dropbox is faster. So yeah, so hopefully we'll see some changes. It's it's amazing when what happens under the hood of file syncing that normal people don't even think about. People like me, I'm just like, oh, it's just uploading a file, but there's all these different syncing methods, and I guess Dropbox has actually been doing a really good job. OneDrive is awesome because of the free space and integrated everywhere, but yeah, the more you read about it, the more you realize Dropbox actually has, at least the technological edge.
I wonder why I use OneDrive, because I'm such a big fan of Dropbox. I mean, I get it. I've already paid for it. I guess that's a factor.
Yeah.
But Dropbox integrates very well with all the devices I use, so I'm not sure why I don't
Yeah.
use Dropbox.
So
Anyway, I don't know.
I use Dropbox exclusively until I got my big 1 terabyte space in my OneDrive. I think with the purchase of my first Surface, it was like a OneDrive deal, and for me that kind of sealed the deal. It was the space that brought me over, and then eventually I went on to Office 365 and got the space. So I'd say for me that's why I use OneDrive.
I will say, with some Microsoft products, you almost are a little ashamed when you mention that you use them. Like if you're like, "Oh, I binged something the other day," people would be like,
You what?
What, mate? Like, yeah, Spider-Man did it in the Amazing Spider-Man. I binged something. They'd be like,
Did he say that? I didn't.
they did. He did
Wow.
bing things. I think
man.
in the Amazing Spider-Man, either 1 or 2. He's like on Bing, and it's like if you said, "Oh, I binged something," or you said, "Oh, look, I shot out my Lumia," they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Are you drunk?" But with OneDrive, if you just said like, "Oh, can we put this on OneDrive?" People are like, "Yeah, sure, fine."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's because in a lot of people's minds, kind of attached to Office. Obviously, you can put whatever you want in there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it's got better publicity than most. Maybe not most, but than some Microsoft products people look down on.
Yep.
I don't think OneDrive falls into that
Yeah.
category.
And OneDrive's not too bad. Oh, the other thing that made me switch to OneDrive was the ability to have those shadow files, the special syncing where it's not actually on your device, to
Yeah,
save
except that
space.
that's gone.
Yeah, and then they took that away, so
Placeholders, mate. They're not
placeholders,
here.
placeholder. Yeah, bait and switch. That was a bait and switch for me. So, and that's the other comment I've been seeing online is, why are we seeing differential sync? Where's placeholders that are supposedly coming
And
back?
placeholders, Dropbox basically has placeholders. We saw that a few months or a few weeks or a few months ago.
Oh, did it? I need to go
I
back and
think
check
they
that.
have a version of it. I haven't used it. I think that they do.
Interesting.
The most confusing thing to me is why Microsoft regularly has good features that they remove in new versions of
Oh
things.
my goodness, that's the thing that I get frustrated. Microsoft
I
and Google, both both of them. Yeah.
I don't understand why. Like we're both friends. Zach, he said on Twitter, is there a way to make your calendar automatically switch your phone to quiet hours when you have an event? And of course, he's saying that cheekily because you could do that with Windows Phone 8.1,
Hmm. Hmm.
but you can't
Interesting.
now. And you get these certain features, and you just say you had this working
Yeah.
placeholders.
Yep.
Placeholders was great because the reason that placeholders were so wonderful is I could see anything I wanted on my Surface, which only has 64 gigs of memory, and there's of storage rather. 64 gigs of memory, pretty good with it. So 64 gigs of storage, and I'd sit there and say, "Oh, I can see this video, and if I want it, I can download it."
Mm-hmm.
You had that working. Why would you take it away?
Yeah.
I
So
don't get it.
after they removed placeholders, I put my OneDrive on my SD card.
Yeah.
And I've actually burned through two micro SD cards because they were
Yeah.
cheap ones from Amazon. And I learned my lesson. If you use your SD card and upload and download and erase and delete and add files every day for like 8 hours a day, you better get an expensive one because it'll burn out.
Do you use what's a good one for you now? What do you
I think
use?
SanDisk is what I
Yeah.
settled on. Before I just used no name brand one.
Yeah, SanDisk, and they have those, what are the S10 or whatever, that speed's very
Yeah.
high and stuff. So
Yep.
SanDisk is owned by WD now.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so WD makes those. I have a WD passport, and they have a lot of external hard drives. And yeah, I believe that WD now owns San. I think that they do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do there. Yeah, it's just, to me, with OneDrive, it's not bad. I'm confused why Dropbox beats it on its own platform, and I guess we could transition that in. Do you want to go into our next segment? App Gap Recap. App
Yes.
Gap
All right. No, no, no,
Recap.
no, 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 no.
I'm gonna change the order a bit here, but so we should, sometimes there's just a lot of app stories in a week. So this is the App Gap Recap. We'll think, how do developers support Windows as a platform? And I think before you talk about anyone else, you have to talk about Microsoft supporting it as a platform.
Yep.
Dropbox versus OneDrive is a great example to me.
Yep.
And we talk about them a lot on the show. There are other ones, and I have a list of things. Twitter got a great update this week. MyTube's great. We'll talk about some of the other ones, don't worry. But to me, there are features that show up on Dropbox before OneDrive that they just perplex me. I think that Dropbox has a version of placeholders. Dropbox came out with an Xbox One UWA that had a feature where you open a photo, you click like an ellipsis or something, and then you can just set it as your background.
Hmm.
And I remember when they said, "Oh, we have an app coming out." I tweeted Rudy and I said, "Oh, are you going to do background photo support?" And he said, "Oh, it should be in an update tomorrow." And then it was, and then and it's great. And I got a great Forza Horizon background photo, and then I put it in my Dropbox, and then bam, it's right there. I'm
Yep.
pretty sure that also works on PC.
Mm-hmm.
And they just put it in there. Why wasn't that on the Microsoft Photos app and OneDrive and all these things from day one? And if it was, why wasn't it advertised? I still don't think it is there, but if it ever is there or is there now, why hasn't it been advertised more? And those are just little things to me that, like Microsoft, they have some very good products,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are very well supported on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
But what's frustrating is when you see the ones that aren't. So like obviously Office is great on Windows. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's it's kind of a given, but don't take it for granted because it does work and that's
Yeah.
nice. But
Exactly.
OneDrive, there. But what do you think about? Let's do OneDrive, Dropbox, and then we'll move on to some of these other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I just in my opinion, so this is where, not to switch companies here, but this is where Apple gets it right, because Apple stuff works really well on Apple devices, right? And it doesn't matter that Apple stuff doesn't work so well on Windows, because they're being nice to make that. But yeah, in my opinion, Microsoft products should work really well on Windows, and they don't always. Third party, there are many, many, many examples of third party applications working better than Microsoft products, which is why there are third party applications to, kind of cover up some of the shortfalls. It's interesting. I don't know why that's the case.
Yeah. Let's go into another example here. So Beam is
Uh-huh.
a product that, it's streaming. Microsoft bought it. It's up and coming competitor to Twitch. It's got low latency. But personally, we're having a hard time streaming, but that might be because of the third party thing that we're actually using. But so Beam it's already coming into Windows 10. It's a built-in thing, which is great to see. It's going to be on Xbox One, which is also great. I think it's going to be built right into the game bar. You'd only have to press a few buttons to be streaming on Beam. That's wonderful. And I think that shows that within a very short period of time, they purchased Beam for a sizable amount. They said, where are people going to want to use this?
Mm-hmm.
PC streamers, Xbox streamers. Let's get it done. Let's get it going. And they got that working, at least in beta form or alpha form. Though I think it might be on beta now for Xbox. But in any event, that's great. It should be on the way soon. I think that's wonderful.
Yep.
But then someone asked, they said, if Microsoft and its subsidiaries won't make their apps truly universal, then why should anyone else? UWP is failing. I'm sorry, that's the wrong quote. Well, that's a good question, though. The
Yeah.
person on Twitter.
Yeah.
That is a good question, the person on Twitter. It said UWP is failing. I don't agree that it's failing miserably, but he said, if they won't make truly universal, why should anyone else? And the question comes because basically our headline is the Beam founder says we haven't had the time to launch on Windows 10 Mobile. And it's not a great way to phrase that, is it?
Yeah.
Haven't had the time.
Yeah.
That's not really.
That can be an excuse for many things, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just not the best way to phrase that. And I
Yeah.
think that it would be better to commit and say, if they had said something like, when we were purchased by Microsoft, we were extremely excited for our partnership. Our first priority was to allow PC gamers and Xbox One gamers to be able to live stream their game footage. Our next priority is to make sure that anyone using a device anywhere can view those streams.
Yeah.
That's fine. That would have been great. Like, you quote that. You say that next week, I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
But to basically say, oh, well, we don't know. To me, I want a commitment that this is going to be a universal Windows app, that I could view it from any Windows device. You're owned by Microsoft, mate. Like, that should be a thing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because you've got other companies developing for iOS and Android, and they don't have time to develop on Windows. I'm sure if you ask them, would you love a Windows app today? They would say, yeah, let's put it on Windows. But it's because they don't have time, right? So that can't be, if Microsoft's own companies are saying that, that's sending the wrong message. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's, to me, it might, I don't know, maybe it's indicative that they have different plans for Windows 10 Mobile. But even if they're going this Windows 10 on ARM route, and in fact, there was actually a device, I don't think it was actually launched for the first time this week, but people were talking about it, this Panasonic Tough phone. It's actually a Tough tablet that has voice support. And it's running like Windows 10 IoT Enterprise, but it also has voice support.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But my point is, like, there's going to be a while where you don't have Windows 10 on ARM on every Windows 10 mobile device. Like, all the current Lumias aren't going to get it. I don't know if the HP Elite X3 will get it. It was shown with that same processor, but you don't know the full architecture. So the thing for me is, even if they're doing Windows 10 full through ARM on a mobile device with a shell, it's still going to be a couple years where these people need UWP to be able to do stuff on their phones.
Yeah.
So for those 2 years, I think that they should be supported. And
Yep.
Beam should have an app on Windows 10 Mobile, and Minecraft should, and it is now. And to me, it's just concerned because even if they're making that switch, they need to hold up. They need to hold up their customers until that switch happens. To me,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
so I think that's a big question. I'll give it. Do you use YouTube third-party apps? I don't personally, but do you use
I
MyTube
actually
or
do.
client or whatever?
I love YouTube third-party apps way more than I love the default, Google-made YouTube apps, except for on Android. On my Surface, my favorite, when I had my Surface 2, my favorite YouTube app was Hyper by YouTube. And they've since made several updates that made it worse, and then I guess Google removed their special APIs that made the apps worse. It's still, in my opinion, better than what Google offers, but yeah, I definitely love the third-party apps, YouTube apps.
Yeah. So MyTube is now in beta form on the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
It looks great. The design's wonderful. I think that third-party developers that are dedicated to Windows do really great work, and I think MyTube's a great example of that. And there are other YouTube ones as well. But to see that on Xbox One is a great sign. Personally, I'm always a little torn with these third-party apps
Yeah.
because they're well made, they're super well designed, they're often more fully featured. I feel a little bit bad if I'm not watching the ads because then I know certain people aren't getting paid. I feel a
Mm-hmm.
little bad that I'd be taking ad money from Google, but I feel worse that like if someone watched our show through a third party app, I don't think we would get ad revenue from it, right?
Well, so I know in the old way, that's how it used to work a few years ago, and then Google did that whole API change. So I think, if I'm not, I
I
mean, I
don't
know there's always
I don't think
loopholes, right?
I don't think ad APIs are accessible to third party developers.
Mm,
But that's good. I mean, you could say that's Google's fault and that's fine. My point is Google should stop being so stubborn and just hire one of these people to make a YouTube app.
yeah.
In my opinion,
Yep.
because they make it so well and it works so you get these features like switching to full 1080p or even higher than I think you do 1440p,
Mm,
and so I think it's really impressive. Next on the App Gap recap, there is what? Let me just say, I'm not mad at these. I don't want to attack. I'm just saying personally, I'm a bit torn about it.
mm,
It's just like ad blockers on a website. I see
yeah.
why people use them, but as someone who, when I write things for a website, sometimes my pay is connected to views.
Yep.
I don't want people using an ad blocker.
Yeah.
So like I understand why people use them, but I
Mm-hmm.
know people in the industry get paid based on ads and views and things. So
Yep.
I get a little torn on it. But they develop apps so well that I wish that more people would follow that Dropbox model. Either do what Dropbox did and hire the app developer, which what they did, or there are some companies that basically say we're cool with third-party apps,
Mm-hmm.
and then they encourage them.
Yep.
And I think more companies, if you're not going to make one yourself, publicly come out and say, yeah, this is fine,
Yeah.
and we want you to use our product. So that's what I would say.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
A first-party app that got updated is Twitter is getting a new one, only for some people though. Have you seen the new update to the Twitter app on
No, I
Windows 10?
actually have not seen that.
It's not on my device yet.
Why not?
I don't know. It's rolling out to some people. It's got tab support. It's got all sorts of fun updates. We have a full article actually, which will be linked in the article for this post about that. And I think I think it's great to get first party support. I like the Twitter app. I wish more companies did that.
Fantastic.
The last thing on the App Gap recap, Minecraft. It is coming to
Yes.
Windows. Turns out it is coming to Windows 10 Mobile. I don't know why they didn't just announce this 2 weeks ago to stop people from
It
complaining.
made people
It
afraid.
is coming. If you're on the current Pocket Edition, you'll be able to upgrade for free, I think. It's great. I don't know. Why didn't they announce this 2 weeks ago, Sean?
So I don't know why they didn't announce it 2 weeks ago, but supposedly the reason why they had to do it was basically because they didn't. It wasn't compatible with Windows Phone 8.1 anymore. Is that right? Is that what you read too? So they basically had to update it so that the features that work on Windows 10 Mobile is the same as what's on regular Windows 10, what's on Android, and so forth. But they couldn't do that before because Windows Mobile 8.1 was holding it back. So
Yeah.
now that it's broken free, now they've kind of rebooted it, restarted fresh. Now everything should be synced on the same page.
Well, my question is, why didn't you just say that 2 weeks ago when the
Yeah.
news came out and all the press started saying, "Oh, you're not supporting it. You're owned by Microsoft." Podcasters like us with these pesky podcasts were saying things like, "Why don't you support your own products?" Why didn't you just announce like, "Yeah, Windows 10 Mobile's on the way. Windows 10 8.1 won't be supported, but Windows 10 Mobile version is launching very soon, and you'll be able to upgrade for free." All right, thanks, mate. Like, why couldn't you say that in your press release?
Some social media strategy gone wrong maybe.
I
I
don't
don't
get it.
know.
Let me tack on one thing because then we can
Uh-huh.
finish with your two stories. The Mail and Calendar app for Windows 10 is getting updated. It's rolling out there with focused inboxes and adding people in emails. And I have to say, some Windows 10 apps at launch of Windows 10 maybe people weren't happy with. I think the Mail and Calendar apps have improved quite a bit.
Yep.
And I think that some of the ad support for emails and interesting calendars, so you can easily, if you like a sports team, you can get their calendar to automatically sync and that type of thing. That's great. Travel reservations and package tracking, all sorts of different things. I actually think that that is an app that Microsoft actually is actively developing. I'm you know, it's a lot better. I actually prefer the Outlook on Microsoft than I do on Android, and that's a good thing. So it's good to see new features there. But that's your App Gap
Yeah.
recap. I'll try to
So
make it
so
shorter next
about
time.
the Windows mail and calendar updates. I don't know, what do you like the Focus inbox? Because I have mixed feelings about it.
Can you turn it off?
On Android you can't, because I've got the Outlook app on Android and it's got the Focus inbox and the regular inbox, and you can't turn it off. On the browser I think you can, so I always have it turned off on the browser. So I'm hoping you'll be able to turn it off in the app, in the new updated app, but I don't have the new updated app yet. But to
I'm all for
me,
options. I think they should let you turn it off
y-
because you could lose an email.
yeah. Well,
Or I mean, it would be there, but it would be in like an other box, and you might not look for it.
exactly, exactly. And I have, I mean, for the most part, it works okay. But every once in a while, an important email will slip into the other inbox. And now I feel like I have, multiple email accounts, especially on my phone since I can't turn it off. And then in each email account, I have basically now two inboxes I have to go through. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, maybe we should put that on Windows feedback on the Insider thing. Just say, take this, give us an option to turn it off. That's what
Yes.
I. All right.
Uh,
Well, why don't we jump into the Redstone 3 stuff, and then we'll talk about your app.
yes. So as you were saying, Sean, this was actually not necessarily new news. We kind of already knew this was coming. But what made it, I guess, newsworthy is that during a presentation, somebody showed a chart showing, the kind of the Windows 10 roadmap, the original update, the update 2, the creators update, and then mysteriously there's this other update after the creators update coming presumably in the fall. If the timeline on that chart is to scale, looks like around fall of this year we'll be getting yet another update. So I don't know if that's necessarily big news. We don't know much about it other than I think one thing that we can probably say is that people's feature that they said would be in the creators update will be pushed to this next update, since Microsoft
You would
said
hope so.
yeah, they said it would be in the next major release. So if this is a next major release, hopefully it'd be in there. I don't know, I guess we'll find out maybe sometime at build or.
Project Neon could be in it as well,
Yeah, yeah, it could be. It could be.
and composable shells could be there as well. That's
Yep,
just so I'm just reading off our article on it.
yep. Do you know why, Sean, they're all called Redstone? Do you know what the significance of that is?
Nope.
They used to like change the name, like every new build was a different name, and now it's Redstone 1, Redstone 2, Redstone 3. Yeah, I don't know.
How many redstones are you gonna have?
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I think yeah. I want some more features for mobile, and I want all these delayed features to be there. That'd be great. So there
yep,
you go.
yep.
Um, More
All
App
right.
Gap news. Viber put their app on hold. All right, next, HoloLens. You have an app. More App Gap news.
Yeah.
Sean develops an app.
Yeah, so this is kind of fun. So everyone on here knows, I do YouTube videos and stuff, but I also recently gotten into HoloLens development, which is kind of fun. So I just put out this app, which I think is cool. Let me see if I can somehow show a little demo on here. Yeah, there you go. You can
Apparently
see it.
Redstone's a Minecraft reference, by the way. But anyway, go.
It kind of looks like Minecraft, but it's actually not Minecraft. It's a city viewer. So how Sean, sometimes you'll go into a city hall or an architecture firm or something, and you'll see this scale model, really beautiful scale model encased in glass, and you kind of you look at the little trees that people made by hand and all that. So that's kind of now what's considered old tech. And now the new tech is to have a holographic version of that, which is what I've made over here. So not only do you have a static model that somebody spent thousands of hours building behind a glass box, but now you can kind of move it around, resize it, and you can actually go into the city and walk around as if you're actually there. So it's a lot more interactive, a lot more things you can do. And I'm really excited because it's just one more example of, what in our current world today can be changed, as we go into this holographic revolution, and there's lots of examples of like, all right, yeah, our computer monitors, TV, stuff like that. But here's an example of something that wasn't computerized, a static physical model that's now holographic. So, yeah.
I think that this is great because, I'm assuming, though I don't run architectural firms and planning companies, that most of them would also build the physical model eventually. But what this could be, at minimum, is these are all programmed on computers now anyway, I'm assuming. Maybe not all. I'm assuming that most models are computerized, right?
Yep.
So you already have a computer model. If you put that in there, and then if you need to tweak it, you could tweak it in AR until you were to a point where you've tweaked it enough, and then you could say, sure, now let's do a physical model.
Yeah.
And I think at minimum you could do that. Maybe someday it could replace them entirely, but I think at minimum you could at least say, let's build this full virtual model before we commit to making this multi-thousand man-hour model, which is very very intricate. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it shows off HoloLens what it can do.
Yep, it really does. And I'm still convinced that, as humanity, we have no idea yet how to truly harness this technology, holographic technology.
It's kind of like this kind of like Inception. Remember when they like build in the city?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Or like the Matrix when all the things show up. It's like living in the Matrix, mate.
Yep. We're gonna get there. Virtual reality is kind of dystopian. I have to say, not so much HoloLens and augmented reality, but virtual reality. Yeah, it kind of makes me worried about what the dark side of it's gonna be.
Any of these can be scary. I just saw Ex Machina this week. And if
really?
you want to, you talk about dystopian and things and AI and stuff, man. It's scary stuff.
Yeah, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk, they've been warning us.
I was watching Ex Machina on the Xbox through Netflix, and then I tried to turn off while it was on. I was going to turn it off and then come back to it later. And I said, "Hey, Cortana." Well, maybe I should wait for a sec so people don't get this to happen. But I asked Cortana to power down the PC or the Xbox.
Yeah.
And then Cortana goes, "I can't connect to the internet right now." And I'm like, excuse, I guess you really want me to see this movie about artificial intelligence. Yeah. And then you think, I'm streaming it fine through the internet right now, so why can't you connect to the...
Yeah, the things that Cortana has to connect to the internet to do baffles my mind.
Yeah, like, powering off a system. Why is that? Why does that need the internet?
Well,
makes you wonder. I would think that they could store some amount of those commands. System commands should be stored inside your system.
Yep.
At least optionally. It's like, would you like to store certain commands offline? Yeah. Volume up and down, power on and off, brightness control, whatever.
We don't need you to send that to a server to interpret what that means.
Yeah, I don't think you do. So I think that Microsoft should have an option for like saving things offline.
Yeah.
Maybe some people be mad about the storage or whatever, but anyway. All right then. is that it for this week?
I think that is. I think that was a good show.
Yeah. App Gap recap. App
Yes.
Gaps, all about
We need
apps.
to have that every week now.
If I love apps so much, why am I a Windows fan? Like, anyway, there are a lot of good apps to be
Yep.
on Windows, to be fair. But yeah, so that's been the show. That's been Talk Microsoft. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Sean Mike. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_Michael_UK. And as always, with me is co-host Sean On.
Yep. And
You can find him on Twitter as well.
at Sean_on.
Well, there you go. And so, yeah, he also has a YouTube channel, and he's doing. Look at that, mate, making apps, big bucks. We don't just talk about Microsoft news; we make the Microsoft news.
Exactly.
And if you want to read more about Microsoft, make sure to check out OnMSFT.com. Remember, that's OnMSFT.com. We have all sorts of recaps, articles. When a build drops, we talk about it. When we got review units, we got weekend recaps. We got categories. You want to know about Minecraft actually supporting Windows 10 Mobile, all sorts of stuff. That's on there. Make sure to read that there. Got the podcast here always as well. And we got videos on our YouTube channel. Also listen to us on SoundCloud or your favorite podcast client or whatever you choose to listen through. And check out Sean on his YouTube channel as well. As always, guys, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and we appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right.